This book is written and published by the 1% Mastermind Audio, and before you hear another word, you need to understand something that could change the rest of your life. The only thing standing between you and the wealth you are capable of is the mind you were taught to live with. Not your background, not your education, not the economy, your mind. You were born with unlimited potential, but raised inside limitations that were never yours. You learned fear you didn't choose. You inherited beliefs you never questioned. You followed rules that were written for a smaller version of you. And the world told you to accept all of it as your identity. But your identity is not your destiny. Your past is not your limit. Your current life is not your final version. This audiobook is not here to motivate you. It is here to rewire you, to challenge everything inside you that keeps you stuck, to break mental patterns you didn't know were holding you back, to rebuild the inner architecture that decides the money you make, the life you live, and the future you step into. By the time you finish this book, you will no longer recognize the person you used to be. You will think differently. You will choose differently. You will expect differently. Because wealth does not start with money. Wealth starts with the mind that creates it. And today, your new mind begins. Chapter 1. The invisible script that controls your financial ceiling. Your life is shaped less by the choices you make and more by the hidden script inside your mind that you never realized was controlling everything. This script did not come from you. It was shaped by your childhood, by what you saw, by what you heard, and by the emotions you absorbed long before you understood money, success, or opportunity. You didn't choose these beliefs, they were handed to you. And over time, they became the quiet rules your brain follows without question. Your financial ceiling is not a number on a paycheck. It is not set by your intelligence, your background, your education, or your circumstances. It is a psychological limit placed inside you by this invisible script. It decides how much money you believe you deserve, how much risk feels too much, how high you allow yourself to rise, and how far you think people like you can go. If you grew up watching people struggle, your mind learned that struggle is normal. If you saw people fear opportunities, your mind learned that fear is wisdom. If you heard people say, life is hard, money is limited, or success is for others, your mind stored these messages as truths. You may not remember the exact words, but the emotional imprint is still inside you. Without realizing it, you built a life that fits the limits of that early script, not the size of your true potential. The brain loves what feels familiar. Even if familiar means stress, even if familiar means bills, even if familiar means dreams that never get acted on. Familiar feels safe, and because of that, your brain repeatedly pulls you back to the same level of life, the same income, the same habits, the same patterns, even though a much bigger version of you is fully possible. You might have moments of motivation where you try to rise higher. You dream bigger. You start something new. But the old script quietly pulls you back. It whispers doubts. It triggers fear. It convinces you to play small again because small feels safe. This is why so many people stay stuck even though they work hard. The problem is not effort. The problem is the script. Real transformation begins when you recognize that your past does not have the right to control your future. You begin to grow the moment you stop acting automatically and start acting intentionally. The moment you question your old beliefs, even for 1 second, the script begins to lose its power. You start noticing choices you didn't see before. You start challenging limits you once accepted as normal. You start behaving like someone who is rewriting their future rather than repeating their past. When the script is rewritten, everything changes. You stop living someone else's story. You stop shrinking to match the limits of your childhood environment. You allow yourself to think bigger, reach higher, expect more, and claim more. Your decisions shift, your habits shift, your confidence shifts, and as your inner world expands, your financial world rises with it. Your potential has always been greater than your script. Now you are finally learning how to break free from it. Chapter 2. The Real Trap. Mental overload that blocks wealth. Most people believe they are stuck financially because they don't have enough money. But the real trap is something far more hidden and far more powerful. Mental overload. When your mind is crowded, tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, it cannot think clearly. And when clarity disappears, progress disappears with it. Wealth is not built in a noisy mind. Wealth is built in a mind that has space to think, space to plan, space to create, and space to grow. Mental overload happens when there are too many fears, too many doubts, too many old memories, too many what-ifs, and too many unfinished thoughts filling your mind at the same time. Your brain gets stuck in constant survival mode. You're not thinking about building a better future, you're trying to make it through the day. You're not dreaming bigger, you're fighting the same internal battles again and again. And when your mental energy is always being consumed by stress, there is none left for growth. A crowded mind cannot see opportunity. It only sees danger. A crowded mind cannot stay consistent. It jumps from idea to idea. A crowded mind cannot plan long-term. It lives moment to moment. A crowded mind cannot take risks. It clings to safety even when safety is the reason you're stuck. This is why so many people feel tired before they even start anything. They want to make more money, but they don't realize their mind has no room left to focus on wealth. They want to build something important, but their mental energy is already drained by worry. They want to think big, but their thoughts are trapped inside a small, stressed-out space. When the mind is overloaded, everything feels heavier than it should. A simple task feels like a mountain. A decision feels like a threat. A goal feels impossible. You're not failing because you lack discipline or intelligence. You're failing because your brain is carrying too much weight, and you're asking it to run a marathon while holding bricks. Mental overload also makes people chase shortcuts. When you're tired, overwhelmed, and anxious, you look for the fastest way out of discomfort. You jump to a new idea, expecting quick results. You seek instant gratification instead of long-term growth. You hope a single lucky moment will save you instead of building a steady, strong foundation. This constant switching destroys momentum, and without momentum, wealth never compounds. The truth is simple. Your mind cannot function like a high-level wealth engine while it is drowning in noise. You need clarity. Not perfection. Not motivation. Just clarity. Clarity is the beginning of power. Clarity is what allows you to think strategically instead of emotionally. Clarity is what allows you to break old patterns and build new ones. Clarity is what allows you to make decisions that move your life forward instead of sideways. When your mind becomes clear, everything becomes easier. You start seeing solutions you never noticed. You start finishing what you start. You stop reacting to every fear. You begin to trust your ability to grow. Your energy returns. Your confidence rises. Your creativity wakes up again. A calm mind is not a luxury. It is the foundation of wealth. A clear mind is not optional. It is required for every level of growth. A focused mind is worth more than any amount of money because it is the tool that creates money. The moment you remove the noise, you discover you were never lacking potential. You were only lacking space to use it. And once your mind becomes uncluttered, your life begins to change faster than you ever thought possible. Chapter 3. Why most people never escape their first financial identity. Most people never escape the financial level they began life with, not because they lack skill or ambition, but because they are trapped inside their first financial identity. This identity was formed the moment you earned your first paycheck, the moment someone told you what reasonable income looks like, the moment you accepted a certain level of life as normal. These early experiences became a blueprint your brain still follows today, even though you are no longer the same person. Your first financial identity quietly sets the limits for everything. It controls how much money feels comfortable to earn. It controls what opportunities you believe you deserve. It controls how big you allow your goals to become. And the strangest part is that most people have no idea this identity is even operating inside them. They think they are making decisions freely, but in reality, they are acting according to a version of themselves that no longer exists. Your brain holds on to this identity because familiarity feels safe. It does not care if the familiar keeps you small, tired, or underpaid. It only cares that the familiar is predictable. So even when you learn new skills, even when you desire a better life, even when you see people achieving far more, your actions still get pulled back into the comfort of the old identity. This is why people stay in jobs they've outgrown. Why they accept lower pay than they deserve. Why they avoid challenges that could elevate them. Why they sabotage opportunities they once prayed for. The old identity fears expansion. It fears stepping into the unknown. It fears becoming someone new because the old version feels easier to manage. So every time you try to rise, the old identity whispers doubts. Who am I to do this? What if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I lose everything? These thoughts are not coming from your potential. They are coming from your past. And the past will always try to keep you at the level where it last felt safe. But your potential is not found in safety. It is found in expansion. You grow when you become someone you were not yesterday. You rise when you stop behaving like the old version of yourself. You step into a new life when you begin to claim a new identity, one that matches the future you're trying to create, not the environment you came from. The moment you upgrade your identity, your entire internal world begins to shift. You start valuing your time differently. You start demanding better opportunities. Your standards rise. Your goals stretch. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop settling for less. You begin to operate from a higher level of self-respect, and that self-respect transforms your decisions. A new identity changes how you speak. It changes what you tolerate. It changes how you show up. It changes what you chase and what you walk away from. When you become someone who expects wealth, your brain begins to look for ways to create it. When you become someone who believes in your own ability, your actions become bold. When you become someone who sees yourself as valuable, the world begins to respond to that value. Identity is the root of every financial outcome. You can change habits, but if the identity stays the same, the habits eventually dissolve. You can learn new strategies, but if the identity is small, the strategies remain unused. You can dream big, but if the identity is limited, the dream never becomes action. The truth is simple. You cannot keep the same identity and expect a different financial life. The person you are today created the life you have today. The person you become next will create the life you have next. For most people, wealth begins the moment they stop asking, "How do I earn more?" and start asking a deeper question. Who do I need to become to live the life I want? The answer to that question is the beginning of your transformation. Once identity shifts, everything else follows. Chapter 4. The wealth block hidden in your nervous system. Fear is not just a thought that appears in your mind. It is something your whole body feels. It shows up in your breath, in the tightness of your chest, in the hesitation in your voice, in the pressure in your stomach, and in the way your hands pull back from anything uncertain. Most people don't realize that the biggest barrier to wealth is not lack of opportunity. It is a nervous system that panics whenever life asks them to grow. Your nervous system was built to protect you from danger, not to help you build a powerful financial life. It is ancient and emotional. It reacts to anything unfamiliar as if it were a threat. A new skill feels dangerous. A new level of income feels risky. A new opportunity feels unsafe. Not because it actually is unsafe, but because your body does not understand the difference between real danger and simple discomfort. So every time you decide to aim higher, your nervous system sends the same signal. Don't do this. Stay where you are. Something bad might happen. And even though your mind wants to grow, your body says no. Your mind says, let's try. Your body says, let's hide. Your mind says, we can do this. Your body says, not now, maybe later. This is why people delay action. This is why they overthink simple decisions. This is why they prepare endlessly but never begin. This is why they quit the moment things get uncomfortable. They aren't weak. They aren't lazy. They aren't unmotivated. They are unregulated. Their nervous system is not trained for success. It is trained for survival. When your nervous system is in survival mode, everything feels harder than it actually is. A small risk feels huge. A simple mistake feels catastrophic. A normal setback feels like a personal failure. Your body reacts with tension, stress, worry, and avoidance. And once your body reacts, your mind follows. You begin to doubt yourself. You question your dreams. You convince yourself that you are not ready. You tell yourself you need more time. But none of that is true. You don't need more time, you need a calmer internal world. You don't need more motivation, you need safety inside your body. You don't need more confidence, you need to train your nervous system to handle discomfort. Wealthy people are not fearless. They feel the same emotions everyone else feels. They simply have stronger regulation. They know how to stay calm while making big decisions. They know how to breathe through uncertainty. They know how to act even when their body is screaming for safety. They move forward without waiting for the fear to disappear. Fear does not vanish with success. Fear loses power when you learn to stay steady in the middle of it. You grow when you sit with discomfort instead of running from it. You rise when you take action, even with shaking hands. You transform when you stop letting fear make decisions for you. Every time you choose action over avoidance, your nervous system becomes stronger. Every time you stay present during discomfort, you build capacity. Every time you push through uncertainty, your body learns that you are safe even when life feels unknown. The day your body stops panicking at growth is the day your future expands dramatically. Your decisions become clearer, your thinking becomes sharper, your ambition becomes bolder. You begin to try things you once avoided. You start taking opportunities you used to fear. You start trusting yourself more than your doubts. When your nervous system becomes calm, you become powerful. When your body stops resisting success, your mind becomes unstoppable. This is the hidden truth behind wealth creation. You do not rise to the level of your dreams. You rise to the level of your nervous system. Strengthen it, and your entire life rises with it. Chapter 5. Mental recalibration. Training a brain that predicts abundance. Your mind is always predicting your future, and it does this by using your past as a reference point. This means that even when you dream of a better life, your brain quietly pulls you back toward what it already knows. If your past was filled with financial stress, your brain expects stress. If your past contained struggle, your brain prepares for more struggle. If you grew up seeing money as difficult, unpredictable, or limited, your brain assumes that this pattern will continue. This automatic prediction system controls far more of your life than you realize. It influences how you make decisions, how you react to opportunities, how you interpret setbacks, and how you judge yourself. If your brain has been conditioned to expect difficulty, it will subconsciously recreate difficulty even when opportunities are right in front of you. This is why people repeat the same money patterns year after year. They are not cursed. They are not unlucky. They are simply following the mental predictions their brain already made for them. But the good news is this: the brain is not fixed. It can be trained. It can be rewired. It can be taught to expect something different, something bigger, something better, something aligned with the future you actually want. Your brain begins recalibration the moment you give it new evidence. Not massive evidence, not impossible evidence, just small, undeniable proof that you are becoming someone new. When you improve even one small habit, your brain notices. When you make your first small investment, your brain stores it as progress. When you earn even a little more than before, your brain expands its expectations. When you keep a promise to yourself, your brain begins to trust you. Success starts to feel normal instead of shocking. Growth starts to feel natural instead of stressful. The future begins to feel open rather than closed. This is how abundance thinking is born, not through dreams or positive thinking, but through repeated experiences that tell your brain, we are no longer the old version of ourselves. We are capable of more. We expect more. We can handle more. Over time, your brain stops predicting failure and starts predicting growth. It stops searching for danger and starts searching for opportunity. It stops clinging to the past and starts aligning with your future. When the brain predicts abundance, your decisions become different. You take actions that reflect confidence. You choose paths that stretch you. You stop giving up so quickly. You begin to think long-term. People often believe wealth comes from working harder, but true wealth comes from expecting more from yourself. A mind that expects abundance behaves in ways that produce abundance. A mind trained to grow will not settle. A mind trained to see opportunity will not stay average. You don't force wealth into your life. You train your brain to make space for it. And the training begins by giving your mind new experiences, new thoughts, new standards, and new beliefs, repeated long enough that they become your new normal. This is why small wins matter. They are not small to the brain. They are signals. They are evidence. They are proof that you are shifting into a higher version of yourself. The day your brain begins predicting a better future is the day your life begins moving toward it. Your energy rises. Your confidence strengthens. Your creativity awakens. Your choices improve. Your habits align. And without even realizing it, your entire financial direction shifts. Wealth is not a miracle. It is not reserved for a few. It is the natural result of a mind that has been trained, shaped, and recalibrated to expect a better life. Once your brain believes abundance is possible, truly believes it, you begin to live in a way that creates it. Not with pressure, not with fear, but with clarity, intention, and a quiet, steady confidence that grows stronger every single day. The identity shift that separates the 1% from everyone else. Most people try to change their financial life by changing their habits, their schedule, or their work routine. They push themselves to work harder, wake up earlier, or try new strategies. But none of that creates lasting change unless one deeper shift happens first, the shift in identity. Who you believe you are decides everything you will have, do, or become. Your identity is the internal story you hold about yourself. It's what you believe you deserve. It's what you think you're capable of. It's the quiet voice that tells you who you are and who you are not. And this voice controls your behavior more than motivation ever will. If your identity says, "I'm someone who struggles," you will make decisions that recreate struggle. If your identity says, "I'm not meant for big success," you will avoid paths that lead to it. If your identity says, "People like me don't earn that much," you will unconsciously shrink your dreams to match the belief. This is why certain people never rise, even when they work hard. Their identity is glued to an older version of themselves, a smaller, weaker, limited version that no longer matches their potential. But wealthy people think differently because they see themselves differently. They don't wait for the world to validate them. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for the perfect time. Their identity already believes they are capable, worthy, intelligent, and ready. Everything else grows from that foundation. Identity shapes lifestyle. Lifestyle shapes habits. Habits shape results. This is why two people can learn the same skill, and only one becomes wealthy. One person sees themselves as someone who can win. The other still sees themselves as someone who might fail. One person walks into opportunities expecting success. The other walks in hoping not to embarrass themselves. Identity decides the outcome long before action even begins. When your identity shifts, everything changes. You stop settling for low standards. You stop accepting disrespect in your work or business. You stop giving your time to things that drain you. You stop chasing validation from people who don't understand your goals. Your decisions sharpen. Your confidence grows. Your energy changes. Your environment starts to evolve because you no longer fit into the old one. You begin to choose different goals. Goals that match your new identity, not your old fears. You invest in yourself without guilt. You explore opportunities without hesitation. You speak about your dreams without doubting them. You show up with a level of self-respect that others can feel. This is the difference between those who rise and those who stay the same. The ones who rise don't become successful and then upgrade their identity. They upgrade their identity first, and success follows naturally. When you see yourself as someone capable of building wealth, you behave like someone capable of building wealth. You start to take consistent action. You become more patient. You think long-term. You stop chasing quick dopamine hits. You stop abandoning your goals at the first setback. You act like someone who believes the future will reward them, not punish them. The moment you start thinking like the person you want to become, you stop living like the person you used to be. Growth becomes natural instead of forced. Success becomes expected instead of surprising. Momentum becomes consistent instead of random. Identity is not a decoration. It is your foundation. It is the engine behind every financial breakthrough you will ever experience. You cannot keep the identity of someone who is afraid and live the life of someone who is free. You cannot keep the identity of someone who struggles and expect the results of someone who thrives. You cannot keep the identity of someone who doubts and expect the results of someone who believes. To change your wealth, you change your identity. To change your identity, you change the story you tell yourself every day. And once that story changes, your life has no choice but to rise with it. Chapter 7. The deep skill of compounding focus. Most people believe they fail because they are not talented enough, or lucky enough, or connected enough. But the real reason most people never create wealth is because they never stay with anything long enough for it to grow. They start something with excitement, but the moment discomfort appears, they stop. They switch paths. They change plans. They restart again and again, never realizing that every restart destroys their momentum. Wealth is not simply built through skill. It is built through compounding focus, the ability to stay committed long enough for results to multiply. Your brain was not built for long-term thinking. It is wired to look for quick comfort and immediate reward. This is why people abandon goals too early. The early stages of any journey are uncomfortable. Progress feels slow. Results are invisible. Effort seems bigger than the payoff. And the brain hates this. It pushes you to quit. It whispers, "This isn't working." It tempts you with easier distractions. It convinces you to look for something new that might give you faster satisfaction. But everything meaningful in life grows slowly at first. A business grows slowly at first. A skill grows slowly at first. Confidence grows slowly at first. Discipline grows slowly at first. The beginning is always quiet. The beginning is always small. The beginning never looks like success. This is why most people never succeed, not because they are incapable, but because they don't stay long enough to reach the stage where things finally accelerate. Compounding is invisible until it becomes undeniable. A little progress repeated consistently becomes massive over time. A small effort done every day becomes unstoppable. A tiny bit of growth repeated for years becomes extraordinary. But the brain cannot see far enough to appreciate this. It wants proof now. It wants results now. It wants comfort now. This is why long-term thinking is one of the greatest superpowers a person can develop. It goes against human nature. It goes against emotional impulses. It goes against the world's obsession with speed. People who think long-term don't panic when progress is slow. They don't quit because the results aren't instant. They don't abandon a path that still needs time to mature. They stay steady while others get distracted. While the world chases quick wins, long-term thinkers chase mastery. And mastery always wins in the end. When you choose compounding focus over temporary emotion, everything in your life shifts. You stop jumping between goals. You stop comparing your progress to others. You stop letting fear control your decisions. You start building instead of just wishing. You start finishing instead of just starting. You begin to develop a type of momentum that cannot be broken by small setbacks. Consistency becomes your advantage. Patience becomes your strategy. Discipline becomes your strength. And slowly, quietly, without noise, your results begin to grow. Then, one day, everything accelerates. Opportunities appear that never existed before. Skills you once struggled with become natural. The effort that felt heavy becomes effortless. People begin to notice. Your life begins to shift. This is the power of compounding the reward for those who stay long after others have quit. The world often praises talent, but it is consistency that builds empires. The world admires intelligence, but it is long-term focus that creates wealth. The world celebrates big jumps, but it is small steps repeated daily that create real transformation. When you learn to think beyond the moment, you stop being controlled by the moment. When you learn to value long-term gain over short-term emotion, you become unstoppable. When you stay committed long enough for compounding to activate, your results will shock you. Most people lose because they cannot control their impulses. You win the moment you learn to hold your focus. Because in the quiet spaces of consistent effort, that is where the future is built. Chapter 8. The Wealth Engine Inside Your Brain. Your wealth does not begin with money. It begins with the internal architecture that shapes the way you think, decide, act, and respond to life. People often believe their success depends on the economy, their job, their business, or the opportunities they receive. But all of those things are secondary. The real engine behind your financial future is the structure of your inner world. When your mind is scattered, your life becomes scattered. When your mind is clear, your life becomes ordered. When your mind is strong, your life becomes powerful. Your internal architecture is made of many layers. Your clarity, what you want, why you want it, and what direction you're moving toward. Your identity, who you believe you are, and what you believe you deserve. Your emotional regulation, your ability to stay steady instead of panicking. Your patience, your capacity to let things grow without rushing the process. Your standards, the minimum level of quality you accept for yourself. Your discipline, your ability to follow through even when motivation disappears. Your vision, the long-term picture that pulls you forward when life becomes difficult. When these pieces are weak, your financial life becomes unstable. You start things but don't finish. You think big but act small. You work hard but move in circles. You get opportunities but don't recognize them. You get ideas but don't trust them. You try to rise but your inner world pulls you back down. But when these pieces align, a powerful shift happens. Suddenly, life stops feeling random. You stop feeling lost. You stop chasing anything that moves. Your mind becomes focused. Your decisions become sharper. Your behavior becomes consistent. And your path begins to make sense. The world responds to someone who operates with internal strength. A clear mind recognizes opportunities that others overlook. A calm mind makes decisions that others fear. A disciplined mind finishes what others abandon. A confident mind takes risks that others avoid. A patient mind builds what others rush and ruin. This is how wealth is created, not through luck, not through talent, not through sudden breakthroughs, but through an inner world built strong enough to handle the weight of success. When your internal architecture is strong, you naturally rise. You don't have to force growth, chase success, or run after approval. You simply become someone who attracts better possibilities, better connections, better decisions, and better outcomes. Your environment starts to shift because the person you are becoming cannot stay in the places where the old version of you lived. People will treat you differently because you treat yourself differently. Opportunities will come toward you because your energy is different. You will take bolder actions because fear no longer controls you. You will stay committed because you finally trust your own direction. And this is where life begins to accelerate, not from external luck, but from internal alignment. Many people try to change their financial reality by focusing on surface-level habits. But habits crumble when the inner world is weak. Strategies fail when the inner world is chaotic. Plans collapse when the inner world is confused. Wealth demands a foundation, and that foundation is built inside your mind long before it appears in your bank account. Your inner architecture is the blueprint of your future. If the blueprint is small, your life will be small. If the blueprint is uncertain, your life will be unstable. If the blueprint is scattered, your life will feel chaotic. But when the blueprint becomes strong, clear, and aligned, your life begins to build itself around that structure. You do not chase wealth once your internal architecture is aligned. You don't need to. Wealth becomes the natural outcome of who you are becoming. It flows from clarity. It grows from discipline. It multiplies with long-term focus. It stabilizes with emotional strength. And it expands as your identity evolves. Your inner world is not just the beginning of success. It is the engine that drives every breakthrough, every opportunity, every transformation. The moment you upgrade the architecture of your mind, your external world has no choice but to rise to meet it. Because you cannot think at a higher level and live at a lower one. Eventually, your life must match your mind. And when your inner world becomes powerful, your outer world becomes limitless. You have reached the end of this audiobook, but the end of this book is not the end of your transformation. In fact, it is only the beginning. Everything you have listened to was designed to do one thing: rebuild the inner structure that shapes the life you create. Not with pressure, not with force, but with clarity, awareness, and a new level of understanding about who you are and who you can become. The truth is simple. The world you see outside is a reflection of the world you carry inside. If your mind was crowded with fear, your life reflected fear. If your identity was small, your results were small. If your nervous system was overwhelmed, your actions were hesitant. If your beliefs were limited, your opportunities were limited. But now you know something most people will never realize. You know that wealth begins in the invisible. It begins in thought. It begins in identity. It begins in emotional strength. It begins in the quiet shifts that happen inside you long before anyone else notices. And now you hold the tools to make those shifts happen again and again. The real journey starts when you apply what you've learned. When you question the old script instead of obeying it. When you calm your body instead of letting fear control it. When you expect more instead of shrinking for comfort. When you stay consistent instead of restarting your life every month. When you choose long-term growth over short-term relief. Every day from here forward is an opportunity to build the internal architecture that will shape your future. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be intentional. You only need to return to the path again and again, even if you take small steps. Small steps compound. Small steps create identity. Small steps change everything. There is a version of you that you have not met yet. A version with clarity, a version with confidence, a version with discipline, a version with financial strength, a version with peace, a version who leads their life instead of reacting to it. That version of you is not far away. It is already forming. It is already becoming clearer. It is already taking shape with each decision you make. Your life will rise to match your mind. Your results will rise to match your identity. Your opportunities will rise to match your standards. Your future will rise to match your courage. The journey to wealth is not a race. It is a rebuilding. It is a deep internal shift that eventually transforms everything around you. You are capable of that shift. You are ready for that shift. And now, you finally understand how to create it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing growth. Thank you for giving yourself permission to become more than your past, more than your limits, more than your fears.